Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number 535 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Cryon Media Network. Yeah. Today, recording day is Monday, December 16th, 2024. It's by-election day in Cloverdale, Langley City. And 9 days to 9 or 8 days, depending what day you count, until, as the joke goes, Mary and Joseph checked in to the worst Airbnb ever. Lots of air. The bee left a little, the breakfast left a little to be desired. So for all those who are celebrating and for all those who are celebrating or observing the multitude of things that are going on in this season, I hope you're gearing up for celebrations that will be joyous and filled with love and laughter. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver. And as you can see, with me is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. Not sure. It looks like it's going to be a nice day here at the Beaver Lodge. Again, we're above zero again. It's almost like 6. I was so proud of myself because I raked up all the leaves and then with the weed whacker, I mulched them, right? And then around the peonies and the cherry tree and stuff like that, I put some manure and then I put the mulch leaves on top of them. And then I gathered all the rest of the leaves and I put them around the big tree in the front to create the pile for all the bugs and stuff like that, like they're telling us to do like this. And like 2 days later, it snowed. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, yes, I got all the stuff down. Now the snow's packing it down. It's going to be there for the winter. Then the snow melted and took off all the leaves. So now I just got got manure. That's it. I'm left with manure. It's like, it's 2 years in a row now. This happens.
It's just
we get the big snow like this, and then we get like 6 degrees or 7 degrees, and which means curling is going to be terrible again today. Last week it was great. We had like -7 and -13 outside. That the ice was normal, but all season long it's been slow. It's been sluggish. It's been dished. It's been everything. It's too hot to curl. 6 on December 16th.
Yeah,
at 6 something a.m. It's only gonna get warmer. I don't know, man. These green Christmases are really disturbing me. All right. Mr. Grizzly, I think I unloaded first. How is your mental health doing today, sir?
I'm all right, I think. I'm a little tired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm tired. Other than that, I'm pretty good, I think. Yeah, all things considered, you know.
Yeah. Well, we had a wonderful podcast, and then last night a nice time with our friends from Getting Sauced and a bunch of other friends that we hadn't had a chance to talk to for a bit. I keep on anytime Ray is on a show, I keep on missing him though, because he always like pops in first, and I guess my Beaver sweetie. Like yesterday, I walked through the door and my Beaver sweetie said, "Hi, it's so nice to see you. I miss you. Big kiss, big hug. Like this. Here's 3 things I need you to do." I was like, "Ah, I got a show at 8." So, but yes, quality time with the sweetie. Always take care of the home fires first. So made a lovely dinner and had some quality time, and then I jumped in on the show. But yeah, Ray is sort of like becoming the pokeroo to me. Oh, and I missed him again. All right, kids and cubs. Uh, doesn't sound at first like there was a lot of news, but there actually was.
Hmm.
There's a lot of things that happened um, under the water that you may have heard of and may not have heard of. But Evan Scrimshaw, um, I'm not going to read the entire column today, but he puts a frame on the amount of news that is accurate, and it's hard to convey in my own words, but he really nailed it. So I'm going to read that part to give you the sort of mood,
Hmm.
right? So again, the expression I like to say, to give you the temperature of the water that all of this is marinating in. Moment. And the part that you probably did hear, because we have it as the title of our show, it appears that Minister Sean Fraser, the very talented and skilled and good, and
Parliamentarian of the year.
yes, and those who know me, really cute. He's cute and
He's
so
really good at his
tall.
job, though. That's the thing. More than
Well, that too. Well, you know what? But that only makes him cuter, right? Because there's nothing. Well, think about it. There's nothing more magnetic in a sense of attraction, not to attractive in the sense of magnetism, I should say, not in the sense of like, ooh, sexy,
Mhm.
than seeing somebody do what it is they're good at or best at,
Yeah, fair enough.
right? Because you shine. There's some extra sparkle. You draw people to you, right? So if you happen to already be easy on the eyes, and then you're very good at what you do, you get fans. Just saying. Works for actors. So, but all seriousness, he's a very good minister and probably one of the most effective communicators.
Hmm.
Uh,
And doesn't
but
put up with shit from anyone.
yeah.
Anyone.
Now, this does not seem to be a battle thing. All right. It seems to have been a life choice that was made some time ago. But just give you a couple words from him here, Evan Scrimshaw. Let's start this column by being real here. Sean Fraser's retirement is going to be rolled out into the narrative of this week, and I'm not sure it's actually justified. I've heard rumors and stories that this was a possibility for over a year now due to the arduous nature of a ministerial portfolio and a rural Nova Scotia seat. The fact that Fraser was essentially guaranteed to lose Central Nova theoretically matters in the story of this decision, but unlike when family is usually mentioned as an excuse for resignation or retirement, this time it is genuinely sincere. So you get that part of it. There are some rumors or framing of the whole Mark Carney thing going on, and I don't want to read it, this part here, because I don't know how much of it is still rumor or framing. But there, as we mentioned last week, there are some articles claiming that there are tensions between Minister Freeland and the Prime Minister. Not, how would I put it? Not necessarily frictions like I don't like it and I'm leaving, but I really believe we should go another way.
Hmm.
I guess if I'm guessing here, given that she hasn't left or anything or said anything publicly, that listen, you want to go one way or the other, like this. I'll be a good soldier. I'll do where it is that you want to go. But I really, really, really think you should be going this way. So that's the sense I get. But how much friction, like there's been nothing really outwardly appearing. And now some people are putting the frame on it as she's undermining. And eh, listen, we're not journalists, but outwardly I've seen no evidence of it yet. So I don't want to feed that narrative, but it is out there like this. So it's the same thing as this Sean Fraser thing could be put. Oh my God, look, even the best communicator is leaving the sinking ship. Like this, it really does seem that this was long-standing, long
Hmm.
brewing, and it truly is generally a family thing. So, so when Evan says things are going to try to get rolled into the narrative, um, don't buy everything you hear. That's the not buying everything you hear caution with regard to the reason for which it is Sean Fraser will not be running again is the same caution we probably should be applying to the rumblings that there is that Minister Freeland is somehow undermining the Prime Minister and that there are tensions between them that are so bad that right. But there it seems that the Prime Minister is making yet more overtures to Mark Carney. And with Sean Fraser announcing that he is not running again, that's another cabinet minister where there's some speculation that there might be a shuffle as early as Wednesday. So there's some speculation that Chrystia Freeland may be delivering her fall economic statement today at 4 p.m. and no longer be in the job on Wednesday, with Mark Carney coming in. So you may have not heard it over the course of the weekend because it's there, but that's the stuff that's sort of rumbling on the ground. There might be a big switch and it might happen really darn quick and fast.
Well, he's supposed to speak later today,
Yes.
announcing his departure at the end of his term.
Yes. Sean Fraser, yes, I think around 9 a.m., if I'm not mistaken, but I will double check that because I do have the time on one of my politics briefs. Now, whatever... So I skipped a little bit, and then Evan then goes on to say, what matters more is that this government is quickly running out of any claim to moral authority or right to govern. They're announcing and then denouncing policy in equal measure. They're leaking key decisions to John fucking Ivison. They're letting a lame duck finance minister give the fall economic statement, despite the fact that everybody knows she won't be here in a month. And they're doing all of this in the name of a leader who's lucky to be ahead of the NDP. Now, other things that have happened this weekend is just some polling that's been coming out that shows that the NDP and the Liberals are neck and neck, but not because the NDP has raised their game, but because the Liberals' game has dropped even more. Say what you want about polls, right? But that's what that narrative is based on, regardless of the value of the poll. Leaking decisions to John Ivison, I mean... if you've been on his Twitter feed, he is first in line to obey in advance. And he's like really obeying. Like he's committed to the bit.
Mm-hmm.
He's all in. Of course, we know who owns the National Post. So this may not be coming from John specifically. It could be clearly the editorial board decision. But again, John Ivison's name is big enough that I don't think he needs to remain there in order to have a good life doing what he does. I could be wrong. I do not know his personal life or the state of finances or whatnot, and all the motivations that keep people working at a certain place. I don't know. I still don't know why Lori Goldstein is still working at the Sun after they printed that cartoon.
Yeah, no kidding.
At all. So like part of me says, like, you've been doing this job for a while and your name is big. You could transfer over somewhere else or run your own independent thing and people will follow you. That you don't need to tie your name with a publication that does this, but somehow he remains. So whatever the motivations are for him to remain, those are his alone to know, right? None of our business. So same thing applies in this situation here. All right. It's nearly impossible to make a case for the forward benefit of 4 more years of liberal governance. There's a case for voting for this government for the things it has done for people, and there's a case for voting Liberal to stop Pierre Poilievre, but there's actually not much of a case that another 4 years of this government will achieve much. The ideas are gone. The best they have are laughable policies hated by the experts they claim to believe in. Even Mike Moffat came out against a couple of policies the other day, and he was the person they had bring to their retreat at the end of one summer to revamp the housing policy, which did result in, Sean Fraser becoming the minister and the Housing Accelerator Fund and all that kind of stuff. And now they're unable to even implement their terrible ideas. They've been handcuffed to a privilege debate they've refused to get rid of, either by acquiescing to Parliament's demands or by convincing the NDP that their demands are exactly as stupid as you believe them to be. And they are. They can't convince they objectively are. They can't convince the public they deserve another term, as their ever deteriorating poll numbers show. They can't convince their own MPs and ministers they deserve another term, as the 5 officially lame duck, not including Freeland, cabinet ministers about to be shuffled out this week show. They can't convince the shining star of Liberals outside the caucus to say yes to proverbial dress. They can't even guarantee that every business that now sells the GST product will be GST free. If this government were an Iannucci plot, we'd be decrying his decline from realistic comedy to the truly absurdist. It's not okay. I don't like the reputation I'm increasingly getting as a hater of this government as much as any of you like calling me a conservative. But at the end of the day, there are people living with their heads up their asses, and it's unacceptable. Tonight, as I publish this, the Liberals are about to lose another seat at a by-election, and this result is so locked in, I didn't bother writing a preview for it.
Yeah.
Ouch. But harsh, but fair. Really fair. I mean, we kind of did the same. To be totally honest. I mean, you want to talk hypocrisy for a moment. I mean, we sit here and we tell you democracy is something that you do in research candidates. Because when we announced it, we had the little blurbs on each candidate, what they had, but we haven't gone back and looked at that and talked to the issues. One, there's just been so much freaking news, especially since what's-his-face, has become president-elect. And then all the premiers started imploding. So there's been so much news, but two, it's like it's like the 100. It's when the number one team in the world plays the 150th team in the world. Unless there's an upset going on. What fun is there watching a game that's going to end 127 to maybe 1? So, mea culpa, just as guilty. We haven't given you much coverage. It was just that locked in, especially when you saw the result from the provincial election. Almost all of Surrey went Rustad.
Yeah, it was a given.
It's like, let's vote again 1 month later. Yeah, I'm sure they'll have a chance to do that much in 1 month to turn you completely off when the whole city went. So, we did it too. Got to be honest, we did it too. Quote, the government isn't, not quote, back to Evan's text. The government isn't functioning as a government anymore. The best defense anybody has offered Freeland's decision to ditch the checks is that the idea was so obviously ludicrous and terrible in the first place that it's a good thing they're ditching them, respectfully. That's not a good fucking argument. Apparently, we're at the stage where the miracle Nate Erskine-Smith promotion to cabinet is happening, according to the Globe. He makes sense as a Fraser replacement on one level. He is a serious and credible thinker on housing whose Ontario Liberal leadership campaign was supremely strong on the issue. That he is now tied more intimately to a deeply unpopular government that will make any future ambition harder is worth noting. But let's put aside my many complicated and visceral feelings about this move as a supporter of his last year and fan of his. That this government is doing this says a ton. The government isn't guaranteed to make it. Oh, I'm going to have to move this. Sorry, make it to April, let alone October. They're shuffling the cabinet a week before Christmas and hoping it solves their problems. It won't. It's a day late and a dollar short, and it's so fucking depressing. I can't do another year of this. Put me out of my misery. Now, I am going to make a confession, Kits and Cubs. Because you know me to be an optimist.
Mm-hmm.
And I am. But yeah, this is getting discouraging. Watching them go. I cannot lie. I won't lie to you. This is like, guys, come on.
They just keep shooting themselves in the foot.
You screwed up giving away money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're openly, very thirstily trying to recruit one guy who keeps on playing coy. You know what that looks like from the outside? Think of it back in school. When someone had this really big crush on someone who seemingly unattainable and keeps on like running up to that. It's like, hi, Brad. Are you coming to the social? Hi, Mindy. Yeah, there's a dance. Oh, bye, Mindy. Oh boy. It doesn't look good.
No, and I don't think, look, parachuting Mark Carney in, if that is the case, is not going to fix anything, unfortunately. This
Especially if
government is dead man walking right now, unfortunately.
Right.
And I say that because we all know that the likelihood of a conservative government in the next election is pretty much a foregone conclusion. Now, will I be voting conservative? Hell no. No, because there's no conservative party anymore. There's a reform party in the name of the conservative party, and they don't have the interest of the average Canadian at heart. They have their own interest and their interest of their puppet master, rich oligopoly oligarchs. They don't care for the average Canadian. They're going to cancel all the good programs this current government has brought in. They've said so. They will reverse everything Trudeau has done. They will reverse the carbon rebate, but they will provide a tax. So you're going to pay, but you're not getting anything back. They will take away your rebate. They will take away your child care, your health care, your pharmacare, your dental care. They will privatize everything they can. They will take away a woman's right to make a choice about her body. Up next will be contraception, and shortly thereafter will be same-sex marriage. They will take all of those things away. They will. And people are just pissed at Trudeau because you have this mouthpiece in the House of Commons every day who spews lies like a fire hose of bullshit and gets to do it without ever being called to task for it. He abuses his parliamentary privilege daily, and people are falling for it. He lies to you about who's responsible for what branch of government constantly. We saw this in British Columbia when people who were voting in a provincial election said, we got to get rid of Trudeau. He wasn't running in a provincial election, folks. We need basic civics lessons for every single Canadian right now, because we're going to get raked over the coals in the next election, and we're going to get screwed up the hoop, and there's not a damn thing we can do about it because people are too fucking ignorant to pay attention as to what is actually going on. I get it. People are busy. I get it. People are frustrated. I get all of that. But learn who's responsible for what before we bring in a government that will take away everything we fought for. It's disgusting what is going to happen to this nation. And people are going to do it because they're going to vote out the current government. They're not voting for Pierre Poilievre. They're voting in a new government because they're tired of the one that's actually provided for them during the most difficult times in Canadian history.
Yeah, that's the part I don't understand. It's like the original proposal, the CERB-like proposal, was 10%.
Yeah.
At first, while Denmark and all of them, were saying 90, and then eventually they got there. But the initial proposal was 10. That was the first instinct. So the first instinct was still rather conservative.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this government saved lives, saved livelihoods, saved homes. Could you imagine what it would have been like during COVID to have to play musical chairs, but with homes? Because you couldn't afford them, and looking for homes that are cheaper, that you could afford cheaper and cheaper because you had no revenue coming in. And then let's say you found one. Who's going to help you move? Where are you going to get the van? Where's the moving coming? Could you imagine? And could you imagine all the interactions and all the transmission that would have happened during that?
Well, you remember Pierre Poilievre said we're conservatives. We don't believe in these big government programs. His suggestion was a tax cut. Please tell me how a tax cut benefits somebody with no goddamn fucking income.
And how does a tax cut prevent someone from transmitting a virus?
This is the thing. These are stupid, ignorant people who only want to rule. They do not want to govern. They do not want to help Canadians. They do not identify as Canadians. They identify as conservatives first, Canadians last, if at all. They only care about money and power and nothing more. And I keep saying this, and it seems that nobody is fucking listening. And it's so frustrating. We're going to shoot ourselves in the foot as a nation because we're tired of the guy who was a former drama teacher. He did that for one semester, folks. He taught math and literature, one semester of drama.
Yeah. So, yeah, I know. I don't. Again, I keep on saying, so I understand wanting change, but you got to strategically time your change, and you have to ask change for what.
Yeah.
You only get to choose among the options you have. There's no magical. You know what? Well, maybe if we vote conservative, somehow magically the skies will open and something holy will touch them, and they will see the light and discover the sense of duty that comes with responsible, good government. That's not who these people are.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this party has been around now for close to 2 decades now. Solid.
Yeah, it's 21 years. I think 2003 was when the Canadian Conservative Reform Alliance Party, the CCRAP.
The very first election they won in, they had to plead guilty in court later on to having cheated to win.
Yeah.
They have not run one clean leadership race since Harper's left.
Well, and
the current leader of the party has a lifetime deferred prosecution agreement with Elections Canada and is the only MP in Canadian history to have been sanctioned by Elections Canada twice.
Yeah. Well, Harper's record is pretty dismal, but you'll have somebody like Warren Kinsella say, "Oh, he was an unimpeachable." I'm like, bullshit.
He was the first leader of a democratically elected parliament in the entire Commonwealth to be held in contempt by his own parliament.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just, and you know, so we're taking a little detour here, but since we're talking about, because one of the claims that's often made of the Liberals, they're so corrupt, you know, and again, it's like, how many open police investigations have there been into the actual government or the Prime Minister? None.
Current one?
The RCMP looked into the SNC thing a little bit, but there was nothing.
It was a nothing burger.
Because how many criminal charges against this government in 9 years? None. Can't say the same thing about Harper.
No.
How many senators or MPs from this government have been on trial or have had even charges filed in court?
Well, Dean Del Mastro, wasn't he the head of the ethics committee for Harper, and he went to prison?
Mike Duffy was on trial. Yeah. And then all the people they dealt with, Bruce Carson went on trial, and Arthur Porter went on trial, and Carson and Porter were found guilty. Del Mastro was found guilty. And Duffy was pretty much found guilty because the laws weren't written in any way that was firm enough.
Yeah.
But although, to be fair, Duffy did, at every step along the way, ask the right questions and say, I really do think I should be running from PEI. So no, don't worry about it. Well, okay, fine, if you say so. And therein was built the compromat.
Yes.
After that, it was like, oh, well, gee, you don't really live in PEI. But you're the one who told me, yeah, but, well, things change. I'm pretty sure that's how Mike Duffy, because Mike Duffy was so freaking thirsty for his Senate seat. I bet you he didn't bother to read the fine print when he said, yeah, sure, and signed. And then he found out what life under a conservative government is really like from the inside. It didn't really work out well for him. Well, there's another one that you may have noticed, because again, we talk about Harper, right? I talk about Trump and say he's the world's worst talent scout, but before Trump, there was Harper.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mike Roman worked for Harper.
Yes, in the IDU.
Right? Jason Kenney worked for Harper.
Yes, another individual with nothing to show for in his entire career.
Yeah, Polyev worked for Harper.
Mm-hmm.
Dean Del Mastro worked for Harper. Bruce Carson and Arthur Porter came in through him. Leo Housakis worked for. There's a lot of people, and then Harper had the drummer in his band.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't he a pedophile?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, not saying that Harper, but again,
nothing to do with Harper, but yeah.
The worst people, he seems to find them. And then there's this guy, if you remember, and I'm only saying this because it popped in the news 2 days ago, but Senator Don, quote, man of God, Meredith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. National Post. And this trigger warning for all things sexual impropriety happening at the office and otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
I was feeling trapped. Ex-Senator's former employee describes alleged sexual assault. Don Meredith is on trial, facing 3 counts of sexual assault and 1 count of criminal harassment against a former employee from when he was a senator, by Catherine Levesque of the National Post. Every morning at work, she alleges that Senator Don Meredith would require his, quote, daily hug.
That's greasy.
Then, she said, came the unwanted fondling. She said she lived in constant fear of being called into his office or in the office kitchen area, where he would allegedly kiss her on the mouth and caress her breast and buttocks.
Jesus Christ, man.
He would call her by her name, she said, or he might call her, quote, baby or sweetie. She said she would get up like a robot and let him touch her. When he was done, the former employee alleged he would tell her to, quote, freshen up before resuming her work.
Sorry. Lola was half in and half out of the studio. Her tail was hitting the back wall and the door. Oh, okay. Sounded like a drum.
Oh, my God. I don't know if I want to read this.
I know.
I'm already so
disgusting.
grossed out. Okay, let's put it this way. If I'm this uncomfortable 4 paragraphs in reading this, imagine living it.
No, thank you. No, I'd like to have no part of that.
Oh, my God.
And this young woman did. And he saw it as an innocent thing. From his perspective, that's an innocent thing. But it's like, no, dude, you're at work. That's your colleague. By the way, it's also your subordinate. So you're abusing your power.
She said that every day she would tell herself she would not have to put up with his behavior for long. Her contract would soon be finished. She had accepted a contract in the senator's office in the Victoria Building, steps away from Parliament Hill in Ottawa. She needed the work, so she said she opted not to ruffle any feathers and do as she was told. The unwanted kissing and touching allegedly continued until she left his employment a few months later. Quote, I was mad at myself for years for this, and even today I feel a lot of shame, she said. This is part
I
of
understand that position she was in. I can't quit. I need the income. I know that. I've been there.
You do what you do to survive.
That's
People
the thing.
adapt
Sometimes
and
you have
tolerate
to.
a lot, but it's not okay.
Yeah.
So, let's make this clear. If you are in this situation or have ever been in this situation where you felt you did not really have the option to say no because life.
Yes.
Never fault yourself.
No.
For doing what you needed to do to stay alive.
It's called survival. And sometimes you have to do things you don't like to survive. And I'm not talking about a night shift that you don't want to take. I'm talking about having to go to a job that you know is bad for your physical and mental well-being, where you're being abused and asked to do things that are generally unsafe. But what are you going to do? Quit? Unless there's another job lined up, and there usually isn't, because you're so desperate to just keep an income and a roof over your head. And employers know this and abuse it, because I've seen it. I've been on the receiving end of it. It happens daily. And it will continue to happen daily until wages get to the point where you're able to put enough money away so that you can take some time off. Or maybe if we had something like a UBI, you could quit that shitty job where you're being abused and find a new one and not have to worry about how you're going to feed and clothe and house yourself.
Right. Yeah. So now don't get me wrong. There's still trauma associated to this that you need to deal with. But you don't need to add to it by beating yourself up for doing what you needed to do to stay alive. Grant yourself grace. Forgiveness first comes for yourself. Right. Okay. That is part of the testimony heard during Meredith's criminal trial. Over the last 2 weeks, he is facing 3 counts of sexual assault and 1 count of criminal harassment against his former employee for events that allegedly happened when Meredith was a senator. The identity of the main witness is protected under a publication ban, which prevents the National Post from using her name or publishing any information that could identify her. Thank goodness. Crown Attorney Khorshid Rad alleged in her opening statement that over a span of a few months, Meredith sexually assaulted, harassed, and used threatening conduct against his former employee to the point where she feared for her personal safety. Quote, the case is fundamentally about an abuse of power, said Rad. Meredith allegedly tried to kiss his former employee, put hands on her breasts, and put his hands under her clothes and exposed himself to her.
What a greasy bastard.
Other allegations include coercive behavior such as monitoring her emails and phone calls, demanding she share her location, and dictating how she dressed. He allegedly threatened her into remaining silent by saying he could destroy her career. Monitoring, surveilling, hands like an octopus.
Wow.
Meredith has pleaded not guilty to the criminal accusations made against him by the Crown. Really, dude?
Of course he would. Of course he would.
If he is found guilty, he could face jail time because the trial is by judge alone. Yeah, I bet. It will be up to Superior Court Justice Narissa Somyi to rule on her decision and deliver her verdict. Meanwhile, the Senate is declining to provide any comment about its past harassment policies or security procedures, arguing that the matter is currently before the court. And before all that conduct they have, let's put this in this context. According to the Library of Parliament, the Honorable Reverend Don Meredith, Senator. Reverend.
Uh,
Wikipedia. Background. Meredith was ordained a minister in 2006, is a graduate of Rema Studies Theology Association, which is a non-degree granting association. He is the volunteer senior pastor at the Pentecostal Praise Center in Maple, Ontario, close to Richmond Hill, Ontario, where he now lives. Meredith is a member of the Chiefs Advisory Council for the Toronto Police Services.
wow.
He was also a member of the York Regional Police Community Advisory Council from 2004 to 2012, as well as a member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Consultative Committee since 2005. He is the former co-chair of the Black Community Police Consultative Committee, an advisory group of community members who advise the police on various issues. Meredith participated in the Black Family Summit held in 2006, described the event as a, quote, great way to meet young women. I'm sure he did not mean that in
That
the
sounds
predatory
like,
sense at that time, but
wasn't that Bill Clinton's thing?
yes. I'm going to go to this young women entering democracy because it's a great way to meet young women and encourage them to participate in the democratic process.
Yeah.
And then, something happens. Ugh. Okay. And here's the thing. Harper, I'm not sure because there's no date when these things happened. But let's see, when was he appointed? Oh, well, here we go. He became a minister in 2006 and was appointed to the Senate in 2010. So workplace and the harassment and bullying were first brought up with the human resources manager in 2013. 2 years later, in February 2015, Quinton Consulting Group, a third-party firm, was hired to investigate because the Speaker of the Senate had noticed a higher than usual turnover rate in Meredith's office.
Wow.
Wow. He was expelled from the Conservative caucus on June 17th, 2015. And there are more, but those ones was something else because those were following allegations he had groomed a teenager for 2 years, beginning when the girl was 16. The woman said that Meredith continually encouraged her to be in a relationship with him, and he frequently pleasured himself on camera during video chats while he was in his GTA Faith Alliance office.
This guy is so greasy, man.
So what are the odds that this guy, I hate to say this, but became a reverend as a manner to gain access and not because he was in any way?
Well, it would seem to me that that's the case.
I can't state this as a fact for anyone who is watching.
Sure would seem
but
that way, though.
What are the odds? I'm just asking questions.
We're allowed to do that.
The same goes. Wow. Okay. Kids and Cubs, I will be totally honest with you. Normally I read everything before bringing it to you, but I saw this one pop up literally 4 minutes before we went on air. And sort of the conversation sort of went there. I did not know that was going to be that.
Yeah.
But the one thing I will say, and Catherine Lévesque, who wrote this article, did some damn good reporting there. Because reporters are not supposed to only tell you the facts, but if there's a mood, it's supposed to convey that mood.
Definitely did.
Wow.
I didn't know he was that greasy.
I knew he was. Yeah, I did. It's
I
not
didn't
the
know he
first
was
time
that.
I think before we had the show, I wrote about him for a while, and
Okay.
he was in the news a lot around the time where he got the boot.
Mm.
He's yeah, very greasy. So this is the party that has all this stuff in its background, right? The contempt of parliament charge, the leader of the opposition with 2 sanctions from Elections Canada, the party that pleaded guilty in court to the in and out scheme and then tried to keep the money, but still keep the benefits of the crime because winning government wasn't a benefit enough. They needed the extra $1 million too.
Yeah.
Right? All the misappropriation of public funds for party advertising
Who is this?
that happened during those years of Harper.
Apparently, you and I are delusional, according to Good Flop 2. We're delusional.
Hey, it's a free country. And you have a constitutional right to be wrong.
Yeah. I'd like to know what we're delusional about, though.
It doesn't matter. I don't want to get in it with.
Okay,
with
no
that.
problem. I'm just curious. It's like
because that's an attempt to hijack the show to get us talking about their thing, and their thing is just not our thing. And
exactly.
We're busy. We're too busy living our best lives and taking care of our damn fam. That person's got the rest of the internet to do that. Here, we don't.
And then they're allowed to say and do what they want. Yeah.
As Ariana Grande sings, yes, and say that shit with your chest. So keep on moving. What's next? Yes, and okay, we're delusional. It's like whenever that meme, the guy that talks to the philosopher goes, "What's the secret of happiness?" And the philosopher says, "To not argue with fools." The guy goes, "I disagree." And the philosopher goes, "Yes, you're right.
You're right.
You're right. We are delusional.
Yes,
we are total. We are effed up in the head, delusional. You're right. Have a nice day." Okay, so this whole right there. The Trudeau government is the most tyrannical, corrupt government ever, says the party that pleaded guilty in court to cheating, then tried to steal the money, then was found in contempt of parliament with the prime minister who had a pedophile in his band, and another one in the Senate.
And again, that doesn't directly reflect upon him personally.
That he named. Harper appointed him to the Senate.
Well, he had no way of knowing he was...
No, he had no way of knowing that. So I'm just trying to make sure we separate the two. Yes, but these people seem to find each other all the time. Why is that?
I don't want anybody to accuse us of insinuating that the two of them were together in on it, because that is not the case.
No.
He had no way of knowing he was that.
No, but again, we're talking about party corruption and lack of ethics.
Okay, fair.
Comparing the two. And the people who support this party, that are willing to vote for this party, that open up their wallets and donate to this party, that has all of this in their track record, is trying to convince the rest of us that the party that we support, even those of us who admit that there is a basic grease tax in all politics, there is some undercurrent of corruption everywhere. The point is, can you keep it down low enough? And while you're taking for yourself, can you do something for us along the way? Thank you. That would be really nice, instead of being greedy, because it's not all about you. Like, even those of us who admit that and they even accept that, because they're very realist like me, it's like, you know what? I would rather than not be, but if that's the price I need to pay to have a functioning democracy, okay. But this shit is out of hand. Now they're just getting fucking greedy. It's like, you already have access to the purse strings and you're already dipping in, and we all know it. Try to keep it to a level where the rest of us can still have a good life, please.
I have a sidebar story here I want to talk to you about, because it strikes me as funny. Once again, we, being Generation X, are the forgotten generation. Once again. As evidenced by the story I'm about to put on the screen here. This is from the CBC, and I think it's really funny. Millennials are set to inherit tons of their parents' stuff, whether they want it or not. Furniture, fine china, vacation trinkets. Welcome to the great stuff transfer. And let's scroll down to this headline, or the first byline. You might have heard of the so-called $1 trillion wealth transfer. That's the estimated amount the baby boomers will pass down to theirs, mostly their millennial children.
Mhm.
Most baby boomers have children that are part of Generation X, not millennials. Once again, Generation X doesn't exist. We don't count. We never have. We never will. We are
Nope.
the forgotten generation.
Yep. You know how I learned? Student loans.
Eh.
The year before I started going to university, government came in and eliminated all grants.
Yeah, they
It was
handed it
all
off
going to be
the private
loans,
sector.
and the loans were no longer going to be government run. The loans were going to be going to the bank so they could get a little premium for the interest.
Yeah.
And then I got done university, and a couple of years later, they started bringing back grants. And then for 1 or 2 brief years, we had like free university under Kathleen Wynne, which Doug Ford quickly got rid of.
Yes. Well,
So-
his private sector buddies who own colleges in strip malls that have 10,000 attendees in a room that will house 35.
Yep.
Because the
So,
provinces have been underfunding colleges and universities for decades.
Oh my God, it's crazy. So, that's when I realized that I really got the short end of the stick. I was among the first ever of the Canadians who graduated from their bachelor degree with about $27,000 in student loans back in the day. It was I got screwed.
Oh yeah.
Like this time-wise, I definitely got screwed, and I still support the government removing all interest from student loans or giving loan forgiveness for like this. So they could get a start earlier in life. Don't have to pay down a $27,000 debt before they start saving for their mortgage. I had to, and I don't want anybody else to, as opposed to some people that would turn around and go, well, I had to, so why shouldn't they? It's like, I had to, and it sucked. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's my take on it. Like, I couldn't afford to go to school. It was not in the cards for me from a financial standpoint. My parents were willing to go out and put themselves out for that, but I just said no. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So what am I going to just go to school for the sake of going to school? I just went into the workforce because I literally didn't know what I wanted to do. How are you supposed to know at 18 years old what you want to do with the rest of your life? Many people do. Many people do not. I was one of them who didn't know. I always wanted to do what we're doing here right now, but the pathway to that back then was quite expensive.
For me, I knew I wanted to be a dancer, and that was just it. There was only that.
Yeah. I wanted to be about 6 different things, and none of them were realistic. So I do this. Yep. Now, if I could just earn a living at it, would be great.
It'll happen. It'll happen. Eventually. We'll get there. All right. So we have Sean Fraser announcing that he will not be coming back. So that makes 5. A potential cabinet shuffle as early as Wednesday, but a lot of it seemingly depending on whether or not the Prime Minister can convince Mark Carney to jump in, who seems to still be playing coy somewhat. I do not know if the underlying hypothesis under this is that if there's not a shuffle by at least the end of this week, that means that Carney is officially concluded no, he's not, or whether or not he still needs more time. But I would think that PR-wise, the government would want to get the shuffle in before Christmas, hoping that people would be talking about it around the Christmas table and saying positive things for when they come back. Hopefully, but it would have to be quite a shuffle. There would have to be a certain significant number of fresh faces in there. Not how would I put it? It would have to be like a big enough change. Can't just be like keeping everybody else where they are and replacing these 5 people with 5 big names or something like that. You'd have to
Right.
replace more and move more and bring more people in and show breath of fresh air. And um, you want to give people media something to talk about for more than one day, which means bringing in a lot new people so that there are a lot more profiles and things to cover and get to know you pieces and all that kind of stuff to make this last for a few days. Or else, what's the point?
Well,
You got to go big this one because
go
this is
big
the
or
one
go
you're
home.
going into the next election with.
Mhm. Yeah,
Right.
that's no question there.
So you get your fall economic statement and announcing it after, because it seems very much that Chrystia Freeland will be announcing that they did not meet the guardrail of keeping the deficit under $40.1 billion. So I'm going to get a lot of tongues wagging about that. So if that comes out on Monday, continues on Tuesday, then you have the shuffle on Wednesday, change the channel a little bit so that we're not talking about the fact that we missed the guardrail. But, if we miss that guardrail, that one is going to be recycled and keep on coming back, because if it's anything about money, well, the conservative supporting media will take that and will yell about that forever more until there's a new number that they can spin even more tragically. So,
well, I mean, it seems to be a foregone conclusion that conservatives will win the next federal election, right? We've all accepted that fate. That is a foregone conclusion. However,
seems to be, but not necessarily yet.
Well, however, we seem to be forgetting that there's an entire generation, Generation Z, that will be of voting age for the first time in the next federal election. And many of them are engaged. And I'd say the vast majority of them would be seen as, for the most part, I'd say progressive. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm way out to lunch on this one. And I could very well be. But from what I have seen, the temperature that I've taken of, the younger generation is that they are politically engaged, they are progressive, and they like these programs that we currently have. So who knows? It seems to be a foregone conclusion that the Conservatives win the next federal election, but nothing's guaranteed. Remember, the last 3 elections that the Liberals won, the polls showed the Liberals losing in each election, and they won each time. So who's to say?
Well, here's the thing, right? He is a very good campaigner.
Mm-hmm.
We still don't know if we're going into the next election with Polyev because of all the other rumors and Doug Ford seeming. Still don't know if that's actually a thing, but it seems that there's something going on.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure if, but like I said, we're getting these pieces about Polyev like being so tyrannical and hard running his caucus, because at the same time as we're having Doug being elevated to Fox News and speaking on behalf of Canada and making policy on the fly for Canada, seemingly. Even the other day when he was talking about the energy things, he says, I'm the premier for 16 million Ontarians, so I have to do the best for Ontarians and for Canadians. It's like, yeah, but not in the sense that you're framing it.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, you should make decisions that are best for Ontarians, keeping other Canadians in mind, because yes, we are, if we can do it without harming other Canadians, that would probably be the best way to go, since we're all like one family in the country. But that you need to be threatening the United States on behalf of all Canadians, probably not.
Yeah, that's
probably not. No. So, but you're talking about that younger generation, and there are other things that might be happening as well, because as we learned in the United States election, it's the people that don't typically vote that you might be able to get out in any given election, in a very close election, that matters. Well, there are things going on, as you know, there are populations that are being attacked and targeted right now, and one of them is the trans community.
Oh yes,
really trans kids. And I got a little clip for you. It's only about 1:07, but it's a clip from somebody that's named Zip Neufeld, who testified. And Zip is a not yet an adult.
Oh, I see that. Yeah, very young.
And as I
Very young person.
testified to MPs, I think it was on December 11th, and had something to say. Now, the testimony is longer, and I do intend to go look at it to bring more to you. But this 1 minute clip will give you an idea, and it will lead you to where I'm going.
All right, let's have a look. Just make sure I've got the volume up.
It is draining. Draining because politicians are using queer youth as pawns, resulting in a rise of hate and violence. Draining because this makes every day more stressful and looking towards my future, not a thought I want to think about. Draining because we are constantly forced to rise up. Why is our leadership allowing this to happen? Here's the thing. Yes, the issue of the queer community, in particular transgender rights, being under attack by several provincial governments is creating a larger problem of discrimination. This makes school environments more unsafe and allows for ignorant, bullying, and mindsets to thrive within the general public. Even a 12-year-old like myself can understand that when hateful thoughts and words are able to escalate, then violence soon follows. The way we are building our society does not give me and trans youth like myself a future. But this...
Wow.
Okay. So
I'd like
we
to
have
see the rest of the video. See if we can find it here.
We have it. Somewhere. I asked. There's a senator, that one of the newly appointed senators from Alberta, Dr. Chris. His last name can't remember off the top of my head. Is a big advocate for transgender rights. Is from Alberta as well. And I asked them for the full clip, and they did send it to me, so I'll be able to get that to you. But the reason I'm mentioning this is because there's a development on this file. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith came out on the 15th and said that she too was now willing to use the notwithstanding clause on her trans health bill, but of course only as a last resort. Follow my bill. Don't make me use the notwithstanding clause.
You don't want to see the commentary under this video. Jesus. Yeah. You do not want to see the commentary under this video.
No,
this is a child. Oh my, it's...
I know.
I can't. It's...
I know.
It's a fucking child. What is wrong with people?
I know. So... She says, because I feel so strongly about protecting kids' right to preserve their fertility until they're adults, we would, as a last resort, have to use the notwithstanding clause. I hope it doesn't come to that, but for sure, we would. Anybody who loves the people that are being targeted, cares for the people that are being targeted, have a reason to go out and vote.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that might not go vote regularly, but they will vote for their children. They will vote for their friends. And the generation that Mr. Grizzly's speaking of, they are way more likely to have friends.
Yes. Very much.
Way more likely to have friends within that community than even we are.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And the older you get, the less likely you are to have friends from that community. Well, and while there have been some elections recently where we've seen that age demographic vote in record numbers for it, it still does not approach the numbers of us, let's say in our 50s, who have a mortgage and would really like them to cut down some spending so maybe that we can have a better interest rate. they're more likely to be idealistic and be global citizens. And more. If these governments piss off enough of them, then it has to be enough of them.
One would hope.
Yeah. So there are lots of different dynamics. And again, Trump may throw us a couple of other curveballs that make it such that the wheat separates itself from the chaff. As we see it in action, that maybe some options that look attractive now suddenly, oh, that's what that would look like in real life. Maybe not. So I understand that there is more than a minimal statistical possibility that there are still things that could happen that could flip this script around from where it looks like it seems to be going now. But, we are well within a year now of October. If this lasts till October, if it lasts, if they call it April and we go in June like this, that's a much shorter timeline. Where the runway, realistically, the runway to turn it around, there would need to be the assistance of some type of politically seismic event. That's a bit of a game changer, which in normal times you wouldn't be able to depend on, but given that we have the Tangerine tornado south of us and that things change on a dime, you never know. You never know.
It's very unpredictable. We don't know what tomorrow brings. I mean,
he can just lob a grenade into over the border somehow that suddenly crystallizes everything. That's like, oh crap! No, we need the liberals. But if we were in normal times, about this time, I would be telling you, time of death, because I would have called for paddles a couple of months ago. So, because I mean, if you screw up giving away money, I mean, what else is there, man?
Well, and this is the thing, I mean, we always get accused of being liberal cucks. Fine, go ahead, accuse us. I don't give a shit. I think, look, I know people are going to benefit from the GST holiday. I disagree with it to begin with because it's a loss of revenue that we desperately need. I disagree.
We've benefited already. On podcast day was the first day.
Yeah, that's right. So
our tax bill on it was like, that's nice.
I disagree with it. And we're going to give $250 to working people. Okay, they could use it, but somebody like me could use it even more. But I'm not getting it. So I mean, basically, they said, you're a useless plebe. We don't need you, and we don't care about you.
Yeah, I think you would get it because it's for people who worked in 2003. 2023. Sorry, 2023.
Okay, well then, I'd probably get it. But
because we haven't filed our 2024 taxes yet.
No.
So you would get it. All right. So I mean, there's, and I'm not sure whether or not a leadership run now would be enough, right? Because again, it could be a breath of fresh air, and it allows you to, do what to save a lot of the furniture, or you create another Kim Campbell situation, right? So it's, and you don't know which one it's going to be before you run. So, there is a lot to be said with sticking with the devil, even if it seems that you are going down fast. Because like I said, he does have those good campaign instincts. And it is true that Pierre has been avoiding as much as possible, other than those question period things when the prime minister decides he's going to be there for the whole thing on Wednesday, to and a couple of things but they're not very often at the same place at the same time and covering the same events. They're sort of like having their parallel tracks, but they're not crossing. So an election forces them to cross, and you get to see them side by side a lot and compare and contrast daily. And like I said, maybe this is one of the reasons why I say the election period should probably be longer, to give more people time to see Pierre. Because there's a lot of people tuning out. Like, I know a lot of people think like 32, 36 days, do it really quickly. But
Not
I
90
think that
days,
the prime minister would
90.
probably benefit more from having him speak and be himself and turning people off,
Yeah.
and him providing the countertone over. So maybe in this case, I probably would recommend a longer campaign.
Well, and let's remember, folks, he keeps trying to have a carbon tax election about how he's going to axe the tax, which he can't.
And he's not going to get that.
Well, they're written into trade agreements with other nations.
We've got Trump now. It's not going to be a carbon tax election.
No.
That's baked in. He's been beating that horse for 2 years. He's not going to get more people on his side than he has now on that now after being that for. It's not going to be a carbon tax election. It's going to be who's going to be the best to handle Trump election.
Yes.
And Trump is going to do a whole lot more between now and the time. He opened with 25% tariffs when he had threatened 10.
Yeah.
That was his opening. And then 2 days later, 51st state and governor of Canada. Come on.
Well,
if that's where he opens,
bow down and kiss the ring.
Yeah. If that's where he opens, where do you think he's going to be a couple months from now?
Yeah. Very true.
This is nothing. This is nothing. And that's why I slightly despair because of our premieres, because man, you screwed up the opening play. And they screwed it up really bad. And apparently they're meeting again today. Just the premiers this time, though. Not the prime minister. So I guess that they can coordinate their ask again, because it seems like last week they realized, oh, crap. Premier's in disarray. It's because Doug Ford wants to threaten the energy, but Danielle Smith really, really, really doesn't. And Premiers Legault and Fury, who just signed a Churchill Falls deal, it's like, shh. Yeah. Shut up.
Shut up. Shut up. Well, here's one just from the representative from Oakland, just tweeted this 3 days ago. Michelle Rempel-Garner. If Mark Carney, with all of his conflicts of interest, I'd like to know what those are.
Oh, God.
With how much of a dumpster fire the PMO is, and after having already served as Trudeau's economic advisor for months, takes the finance minister role as an unelected person, he's not as smart as some of you think he is.
They are afraid. They are afraid of this. Yeah. Wow. That's one hell of a preemptive strike. He's got major conflicts of interest. Not detailed which ones, though. But yes, but that's the second or third time I've heard this now. With all of his conflicts of interest and coming in now at this time after this, wow, he must not be really smart. The UK poached him for us. He's plenty smart. Okay. Yeah. I think that's pretty much well established. But that's the thing, right? Is if he comes in and there's a shuffle and he's put at finance minister, that's one thing. If they create the other word on the tweet about this type of thing is that they would create a new sort of, Office of Management with U.S. Relations type thing and put him in that one. Or put Freeland in that one, given that she did so well last time, that make her focus on the U.S. relationship because she's got experience, and leave the overall finance portfolio to Carney. But no matter what, because this is the way the conservative media, if he's brought in and they create a new position, it's just a make work position, it's just symbolic, it's nothing. No. He had the courage, you brought him in, but didn't have the courage to go right away. I guess Freeland must have his balls in her purse. Right? And if they do move her, see, even he admits that she was ineffective, not good. No. He should have done that 3 years ago. He's not good. And look at that. Oh my God. So much for being a feminist, replaced her with a man. And man, it's just, this is going to happen. I'm telling you. This is what they do. It's like there's a way to spin everything to the negative, and no matter what it's going to be, it's going to.
Yeah.
right? So just get ready. And, we already had Fife the Knife put in because we read the article last week, the undercurrent like this, that there was stuff going on like this. So, there's cabinet shuffle coming. Will he shuffle Freeland? Will he, won't he? Doesn't matter. We have no insight, but let's speculate that it could, and about what the toxic brew that would come up from the cauldron if we put the Eye of Newt of Mark Carney into the brew. Because we need to sell copies. Or there could actually be something going on. But when the last time there was something going on between the Prime Minister and a female cabinet minister, where one was undermining the other, we saw a lot of that leak out in public.
Oh, yeah.
The person in question even surreptitiously recorded somebody. It was a hot mess. There was drama. There was stuff leaking out left, right, and center, and dripping. It was like, what the hell is going on in that house? There's none of that this time.
Yeah.
There's just speculation about them wanting Mark Carney to come in. What does that mean for Christopher Freeland? What does that say about her? And are there tensions between them? Especially since the $250 check didn't go through. I guess one must be on one side and one must be on the other, and they must be. But there's been a government that is this much in trouble is usually an incredibly leaky boat. So how can this party be so low in the polls? And this leader having all these people abandoning ship, and nobody is leaking out about what would be the biggest, even the Morneau thing stuff leaked out, and he popped up again on CTV's Question Period to be helpful. Why do these people never stay gone? Jeez.
I don't know.
Yeah. He popped up. What was it that he was saying? There was a program that we should probably, make a proposal that we should make inroads with the incoming U.S. administration by scrapping some sticking point policies such as the controversial digital services tax.
Okay.
Because the United States is really upset about that. But it's like, okay, this could be, but it's like, again, you are literally the former finance minister coming in at a moment where there's press having a buzz about a battle of potential finance ministers coming in and offering some advice. Not now, Bill. Let her table the fall economic statement. Let us see if there's a shuffle. There will be plenty of time for you to come up and deliver that statement, because Trump doesn't assume office until January 20th or 21st. So there'll be plenty of time for you to show up on CTV's Question Period to make that helpful suggestion. Not now. My God, politics really is show business for homely people, isn't it?
It is.
It's like, you see these scenes of two divas, one person singing and then the other person sings their note and comes up behind her and puts the hands out like this, and the boa smacks them in the face, or the hand smacks in the face, and then she steps out and then comes out again like this and punches her in the gut. And it's like, no, my turn. No, you've got move, cow. It's my turn. It's just, these people are tripping over each. Oh my God, it's a mess.
Well, and let's remind Canadians. We'll start right here, right now, with something that is important to take note of, and you really should share. I'm going to put the link in the chat, and then I'm going to pull it up on the screen. And this article from the CBC was written September 14th, I believe it was. September 14th or 24th. I'll get the exact date in a sec here. I'm just posting the link in the chat for anybody who wants to read it. But This was, September 14th of 2024. Major Russian disinformation site featuring anti-Trudeau articles prompts calls for new focus at public inquiry. Here it is. I'll put this on the screen, and I'll read it to you at the same time. It says, a website at the heart of an international Russian disinformation operation has produced more than a dozen articles about Canadian politics in an attempt to undermine support for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and boost his chief rival, Pierre Poilievre. The website Reliable Recent News has been identified by officials in Europe and the US as a repository for pro-Kremlin articles that are distributed through a network of affiliated sites disguised to appear as legitimate news outlets. Might that be why he won't get his security clearance? Because he's compromised?
At this moment, there seems to be a lot of levels. Again, all of them rumor, innuendo that we know of, but
Elizabeth May damn near said it.
There would be a lot of reasons. I mean, there's the intern, allegedly.
Mhm.
There's the family into which he married, allegedly. There's the fact that he's already been sanctioned twice by Elections Canada, and who knows if there's more under that. There's the whole conservative leadership race thing. There's the
Mhm.
there's how he became a multi-millionaire.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I don't know.
on that one, you can, because you get paid a good salary and you don't really have any expenses, really. Everything's pretty much paid for you.
And he's been there for 20 years. So
In 20 years.
how much is he worth? I don't know. I've heard rumors of 9 million. I've heard rumors of 100 million. I don't know any of that to be true. Nobody's been able to show me a balance sheet to document for a fact that he is worth this much. He probably is. He's been in that position for 20 years.
Yeah, I guess after 20 years of never having to pay for a damn thing ever.
You just sock
Pretty
money
much.
away and invest left, right, and center.
Yeah. Like this, especially if you've got a residence that you're getting more government money for.
Yeah.
Because there's another MP out living there that you rented it to. He sure loves that trough, doesn't he?
Double dipping.
I saw that the other day. He's making comment about Jagmeet Singh's Rolex.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, that man earned that Rolex after working several years as a lawyer. And
$12,000 Rolex, yeah, which is not a big deal for somebody who was making the money he was earning.
yes, but let's compare and contrast with what you've contributed to Canadian society during the same time he was earning that Rolex. And now let's compare the value of your pension to the value of that Rolex. Are you freaking kidding me?
Value
right
of
now?
his pension compared to Jagmeet
Yeah,
Singh's. Keep going.
as well.
Jagmeet Singh just wants his pension. I'm like, do you really
You've already
think
got
that's going to
yours.
matter to him? Yours is worth 200,000. His is worth 60.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like, you only point. It was pointing out Jagmeet Singh's Rolex.
Well, apparently Pierre Poilievre has a Patek Philippe.
Yes.
I don't know if you know what a Patek Philippe is, but a Patek Philippe watch is about $100,000.
Yeah. He's got one too, right? Not a Rolex, but he's got a $100,000 watch too. So, I mean, it's like the Andrew Scheer with the dual citizenship, right? He criticized Stéphane Dion, he criticized Michael Jean, but he had it too and never mentioned it because nobody asked him.
Why would we?
Or Rona Ambrose criticizing, the trip when she was on a billionaire's yacht. I mean, at the same time, it's, and then there's the whole avenue of what may or may not be happening with the way that the party is doing merchandising and all the ways that opens the door to foreign money coming in. And there could be a lot of different avenues. There could be more than one way that this guy is compromised. But yeah, like Elizabeth Bay said, at this point, the fact that he keeps refusing to go and get it, you have to start asking whether or not there is something.
Well, and this is what the Liberal Party needs to hammer home. And actually, so should the NDP and the Green Party. Hammer the shit out of that.
Pass the damn law. Again, make it law. Put him in a corner. Make it law. If you make it law and he still won't get it, then you've got some questions. Right now, it's an option.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you no longer make it optional, it's like you need to get it as a party leader, And if you become prime minister, you will not get it automatically. You need to get it. Because right now, dude is just running out the clock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because he's going to get it automatically anyway. Change the law. Change the damn law.
Well, I don't, in all honesty, I don't know if you would have to, and I say this because I don't know that you would have to apply to get it as prime minister, because you would already be a party leader, which would mean you would have to get, if we make the law that all party leaders need to get the clearance, then you automatically get it as prime minister because you'd already be cleared.
Yes, if you, you had. I don't know if there would be an extra level if you were prime minister that you'd have to do a couple of extra checks or whatnot. But like I said, if you reform the system, maybe you do. But yes, it should be. No, it's 2024. Nobody should be getting it automatically anymore, for any reason.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So it's like, he won't go get it. Make him.
Mm-hmm.
Change the law.
Yeah.
I don't know why they won't. Okay. So today, 4 p.m., I believe it is, the Minister of Finance will be reading the fall economic statement. And it seems that indeed it will happen in the House, not because Pierre the Magnanimous allowed it to happen, but because, of course, the Liberals only need one of the NDP or the Bloc Québécois to vote on allowing that to happen. And, well, it seems that they got it, regardless of what Pierre would or not do. So it will be happening. Liberal insiders say that it will largely focus on responding to the incoming Trump administration's concerns around the border and dealing with potential tariffs and the economy today. There have been a few announcements from it already, such as $26 billion in R&D tax credits and a new 30% rule for pension funds. That hopefully this article will say something a little, because I can't explain it off the top of my head how it is that pension fund thing is going to work. But according to Davis Legree and Marco Vigliotti of iPolitics, Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland's later than expected fall economic statement will largely focus on responding to the incoming Trump administration's concerns around the Canadian border, dealing with potential tariffs and the economy, according to Liberal insiders. The economic update, often dubbed a mini-budget, will be tabled Monday in the House of Commons, weeks later than its usual landing spot in mid or late November. It also comes a month after Donald Trump won the U.S. presidential election with a campaign that promised heavy tariffs and vowed to step up enforcement of the country's borders. Steve O'Brien, a government and public policy lawyer with Macmillan and former chief of staff to several Liberal cabinet ministers, said she expects that Freeland's later than usual fall economic statement was prompted by a need to refocus on Canada-U.S. relations, though she expects there will also be measures rolled out to address concerns around affordability. Quote, I think that the late timing, which is unusual for the feds, reflects the government's need to recalibrate its priorities, especially amid mounting pressures from the U.S. So we're going to see a refocusing, a very slim fall economic statement that's focusing on borders, tariffs, and affordability. And if it doesn't fall into one of those, or with one of those three things, it will not be in the fall economic statement. So there you go. Freeland has made a few signals on what to expect. Earlier in the week, she said it would show Canada maintained its targeted debt-to-GDP ratio last year, as well as announcing a doubling of the maximum loan amount offered by a yet-to-be-launched program aimed at helping Canadians build secondary suites. I believe that was up to $80,000 in that program for people that want to build a secondary suite on their property to increase housing. Freeland says the fall economic statement will show Canada maintaining its fiscal anchor, singular. I believe that she had put 3 in the budget. On Friday, Freeland outlined a $26 billion boost in tax credits aimed at helping more small and medium-sized businesses invest in research and development. Thank you. We need that. This includes offering a 35% tax credit for Canadian businesses for R&D spending up to $3 million and a 15% rebate for non-Canadian owned firms. She has also announced plans to spend $2 billion to lure pension funds to invest more in Canada's startups and larger companies, as well as removing the rule limiting investments in Canadian entities by pension funds to no more than 30% and increasing loans and equity investments for AI data center projects. Okay, so that's what the 30% rule was. It's pension companies could not own more than 30% of a company or position of somewhere. And I guess that is going to change now. They're going to be allowed to own more than that. Freeland said the feds would also work with airports and pension funds on, quote, ways to further incentivize investment and development on airport lands, including, quote, exploring potential changes to airport authority ground leases, as well as considering changing the private sector ownership level limits for municipal-owned utility corporations. The idea would be to encourage Canadian pension funds to invest in these utilities. Meanwhile, the feds have sold their shares in Air Canada, Liberal MP Peter Fragiskatos confirmed it during question period Friday. Now, this is one that's had a lot of tails wagging because you had some people from the conservative side of the spectrum saying if a government is selling assets in order to cover interest payments, that means the government is doing a terrible thing. No, not always. If a government is selling an asset it never intended to own in the first place at a profit at a time that they have interest rates going up and higher interest charges, that would be a smart thing. The government has sold the shares for about a $39 million profit. Compare and contrast to the last time a government bailed out a company.
And lost what? How many billions did we lose?
$3.5 billion. Yeah. They still, again, this is what this thing that the conservatives keep on doing. This is another example of it. When they were in government, they sold GM shares that they bought during the 2008 crash, which they needed to do, which was a good move. Yes. And the election that they eventually lost to Trudeau. So in a losing effort, sold those shares at a $3.5 billion loss in order to record a one-time sale that they could put on the budget and say they balanced the budget that year so that they can campaign on being a party that balanced the budget. It was not a structural balance. It was sleight of hand. That's a bad deal.
Oh, yeah.
This government took a stake in Air Canada during the pandemic shutdown. Same thing the conservatives did. An asset they never intended to own. They were calling General Motors government motors back in the day. So government should not own any share whatsoever of any corporation. Never, ever, 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 ever. It's like, hey, dudes, if we need additional revenue and we're not going to do it through taxation, 5% equity stakes in a lot of companies in which we put money, not a bad idea. 5 to 10%, not a bad idea. You're not going to control the direction of the company with that, even if you get a say. And you got some dividends and other stuff and maybe share valuation coming up your way. Because governments are going to have to start making money through other ways but taxation. So the fact that government should not own any share of any company ever in any way, shape, or form, I don't necessarily think that. It has to be limited and definitely nowhere near controlling. Not necessarily. So both of them, assets they never intended to own. The current opposition accusing the current government of selling it just to get a better budget number, which is literally what they did. But they sold theirs at a loss, and we sold ours at a gain. They sold theirs at a loss when the economy wasn't about to, tank. We sold ours after the economy had tanked, and we saw the consequences in terms of interest. It's a smart move. It's an economically sound move. Could the government decided to keep the shares longer and see if they would get to a higher valuation and make more? Absolutely.
Well, it's you know they're in the black now, so let's sell the shares and turn a profit.
Sell shares, turn a profit like this, and apply it to some interest.
Although
that we didn't expect to pay because we didn't think that the interest, when we knew that the rates would go up, but we didn't think that the Bank of Canada would go all the way up to 5.
In all honesty, I would prefer that they just bought Air Canada and nationalize it like it once was, because once it became privatized and it was profit motivated, the quality has just gone into the toilet. Thanks, Brian Mulrooney.
Exactly. So, quote, during the pandemic, the government provided loan support and other support for Air Canada to ensure its long-term viability, said Fragiskatos. He's a Liberal MP here. Part of that was buying shares in the company. It was never, though, the intention of the government to hold on to these shares into the long term. It made a sale yesterday, and it was a responsible one. Insiders say that Freeland's planned fall economic statement was likely upended by the election of Trump, which prompted a renewed focus on bolstering border security. And then the article goes into all the stuff that Trump did and all the brouhaha. And then they talk about some guy named O'Brien. Unfortunately, I don't see where he was introduced in the article, so I can't say who he is. Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Not very helpful. But anyway, some guy named O'Brien, sorry, I can't tell you who he is, said that this year's fall's economic statement was, quote, always going to be slim, with Freeland consistently mentioning the need to restrain spending growth for Canada to hit its deficit reduction targets. But the feds are being forced to pivot to spending more on the border in light of Trump's demand, she said. Quote, I don't think that the coffers are overflowing with extra funds for extra spending, but I think because of President-elect Trump's comments and the tariff threats and the comments regarding the border, we're going to see actual spending that probably wasn't planned for enhanced border pressures, drones, and perhaps additional personnel. O'Brien's thoughts were echoed by veteran Liberal operative Muhammad Ali, now vice president at Crestview Strategy, who said the fall fiscal update was the federal government's final chance to respond to Trump's tariff threats before he takes office. Quote, I do expect there to be mention around new spending, or at the minimum, reprofiling of funding for strengthening our border with the United States, given Trump's insistence on this issue and the public commentary by the Prime Minister and members of Cabinet, Ali said in an email. This is a major issue and the government needs to act on this, and I expect as much as this will be the last opportunity to do so before Trump is inaugurated. Trump's inauguration is scheduled for January 20th, and he has vowed to introduce tariffs immediately after taking office. So yeah. There's more to this, but there's not so much about Freeland and whatnot, just comments from the overall sector here. Mm-hmm. So yeah, on 4 o'clock today, it'll be read in the House. We'll find out what it is. Like I said, it seems by the framing that only one of the 3 fiscal anchors she will be able to announce has been met. Now, I would assume that given whatever way we did not meet the guardrail in terms of the actual deficit number and whatever the third metric was that I can't remember off the top of my head at all. I'm so sorry. That we didn't blow past them so bad that they affected the debt to GDP ratio. Right. So if it comes in at 46 billion rather than 40 billion, it may look like a lot. But if it didn't materially change the debt to GDP ratio, we're probably okay overall. But again, politics is about taking minor differences and then raising them up to make them look like they're big. Try to campaign on that. So you can expect that. They will not meet the $40 billion. And you will see all conservatives running around like the sky is falling, like this. They're spending us into the poorhouse. Well, I mean, we already got Pierre saying he broke the economy. So, see, I told you. Oh my God, it's worse than we thought. Probably be the line. And we really need that carbon election now. This is proof. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. It won't take long because I'm sure they got the lines prepared and are just waiting. I'm sure that the thing won't even be fully read, that there will be something appearing somewhere saying, this is a disaster.
Oh, of course. You know that. That's a given.
Gotta love this world today.
I want to look at a couple of headlines here. This one, so I'll show you the headline, then I'll just give me a sec till I cue it up. I'll show you the headline, and then I'll show you the commentary from our friend Max Fawcett. And I'm like, yes, Max, I like how you framed this because that's correct. So from the National Post, it says, 5 years after COVID emerged, many Canadians believe unprecedented government-mandated policies went too far. 1 in 6 regret getting vaccinated. 1 in 6. Framing Matters, that could have easily written this up as 5 years after COVID emerged, most Canadians don't believe unprecedented government-mandated policies went too far. 7 in 10 don't regret getting vaccinated. Remember who the National Post is owned by. Post Media, Chatham Asset Management, GOP right-wing funded evangelical. They want to frame a story as if it's the sky is falling, when in actual fact, it's not. And the vast majority of Canadians do not regret getting vaccinated and do not think the federal government went too far in trying to protect us from the terrible COVID, the global pandemic, the thing that brought the whole world to a screeching halt. Most Canadians don't believe they went overstepped. I'm one of those Canadians. I think they did the right thing to protect us at a time when it was needed.
On the show, we said that if after all of this was done, we had the feeling that the government overstepped, it's probably because they did right.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it was unknowable.
Most people I know say the same thing. No, they did the right thing at the right time. It was what was needed to be done. Look, when they instituted CERB, they said, we know there's going to be fraud. We know it. We know there are people going to get it who absolutely don't qualify. We know this. We will come after them and we will get the money back. But right now, we need to get the money into the hands of every single Canadian that we can get it to. Not everybody got it. But they had to move fast. Make rash decisions so that you can keep people safe. And that was what they needed to do. And that is what they did. So no, most Canadians don't have an issue with that.
Yep. And because you know how much I respect Max, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, Max opened his thing with Framing Matters. And I'm not saying he saw ours.
Mm-hmm.
But 17 hours ago, Max Fawcett, Framing Matters. And then ours, 21 hours ago, Framing Matters. I took the thing. It was at Hallway Orchard. Took a picture of the actual newspaper article,
Mm-hmm.
and put it in. So I read it that way, and it's like, oh, Framing Matters. So Max and I definitely did not see the same source material for that. But it's like every now and then, it's like, okay, I'm on the right path. It's like, I think this is a Framing Matters thing. And then Max comes out and says Framing Matters. Okay, I was right.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least, so let me put it this way. Sorry, let's be a little more humble. Not necessarily I'm right, but somebody whose mind I very much respect agrees. So the odds that I'm right have just dramatically increased. There we go.
Well, and I also have a graphic to show you here for Premier approval from December 2024. This is from Reed. Take that with a grain of salt, but
yes.
Premier approval, Wab Canoe, 67%. Tim Houston, 55%. Our friend Susan Holt, 54%. Scott Moe, 52%. That one I don't get. Andrew Fury, 46%. EB, 46%. Daniel Smith, 45%. Legault, 36%. And Doug Ford at 34%.
And he's still inevitable.
Yeah.
And that's the one that they're propping up for potential prime minister. The guy, oh my God. 34. How is he winning?
I don't know. I don't know.
Now, which we won't get into this episode, but it seems that there's a combination of stuff, an Ontario Auditor General report that came out not too long ago. That's really not good for Mr. Ford. And it seems that there is some life in Bonnie Crombie yet. It seems that she recently unveiled a housing policy that is actually serious and really good. And not exactly the she's just Doug Ford in heels ish as everybody expected something from her to come in. In fact, there's actually some stuff that she did borrow and take from Nate Erskine Smith when he ran. in it and incorporated. So I'm looking forward to learn more about that. I just know the broad lines. I haven't had a chance to dig yet, but who knows? There might be some life in the old Liberal Party, Ontario Liberal Party yet.
Well, I'm not a big fan of Bonnie Crombie.
I know, but like I said, this type of thing is an opportunity to rebrand. So you never know. I mean, it's the policies, right? It's like there's the person, but you got to look at the policies that they're putting forward. And now the whole question is whether or not you trust her to put in place policies that would be more progressive given what we know about her. And that's a whole other kettle of fish. But if the policies that she's putting down are solid and well thought out, it's already something. It's already something. It looks like it's going to be a serious push. So we'll see. In this day of age of being bombarded with a whole bunch of stuff and having to create new content all the time, I'm wondering if there is not a place for somebody who says, because we're going to work on these 3 or 4 things, develop them really well, and just talk your ears off about them, rather than have something new all the time, whether or not that could break through. It's a little zigging where everybody else zags. But there might be some people who are tired of the breathlessness.
Possibly.
You got to try things to stand out.
Let's take a look at this clip from YouTube. It's why are vulnerable Ontarians losing their rights under Doug Ford? This is interesting. Just have a watch. It's about 3 minutes.
You know what the best way to get people out of the encampments, get out of homeless, healthy, get off your ASS,
93% of the deeply affordable homes built in the province of Ontario were built before 1995. There is no city or town in Ontario where a full-time minimum wage worker can afford average monthly rent. In Toronto alone, 92,965 people are on a wait list for housing. The wait time, 14 years.
So I'm going to be talking about the Canadian Charter Clause 33, the notwithstanding clause. The clause that Doug Ford is using to evict homeless people and basically have them arrested. The notwithstanding clause of Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms is a provision that allows federal, provincial, or territorial governments to temporarily override certain rights and freedoms. In Section 2, the fundamental freedoms that it can restrict are freedoms of expression, religion, and association. Now, this is where it gets important, is Sections 7 to 15, legal rights and equality rights like right to life, liberty, security, and equality before the law. It's frightening that the government has the power to take away your basic human rights. I personally don't understand why more people aren't upset at this. Taking away the rights of a marginalized group of people who are this way because of the problems, the government caused.
Get off your ASS.
Personally, I think it's a very slippery slope because who's to say who's next after homeless people lose their rights? Maybe parents are next. Who's to say they're not going to change their mind thinking parents don't have the right to teach their kids what they want? There's something really wrong. There's something fascist about the government picking a group of people and saying, hey, you don't have rights, and basically arresting them, throwing them into internment camps, prisons, and whatnot. I'm going to share this one last little clip with you guys, and I'm going to call it a day. I hope to get you guys' opinions on everything, but just read this. Personally, I'm all for taking drugs out of public spaces. I'm not a drug user, and I believe people deserve treatment and help. This does not do this. Doug Ford wants to fine or imprison homeless drug users, the most vulnerable people among us. And these users are not going to be able to pay $10,000, so they're going to be put in prison, causing even more burden to our government systems, our funding. This isn't fixing any problems. This is throwing our problems in an internment camp and forgetting about it until they're out. Instead of using our tax dollars to house homeless, mentally ill, and addicts in prison, you could be putting it towards social programs and things to actually get people better and fix the problem, not hide the problem in a prison. As always, thank you guys for watching and giving me a like, and If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I would like to hear your guys' opinions on the topic, on what's actually going on. Thank you. You guys have a fantastic...
So I don't actually know that individual, but I saw the video and I thought that was interesting. Let's have a closer look at this. Why are vulnerabilitarians losing their rights under Doug Ford? He's right. That is what is happening.
Absolutely. Absolutely right. Like I said, we talked the other day about the Canadian Civil Liberties Association coming out and talking about, and I am going to reach out to them to see if we can get someone there, but raising the alarm on the proactive use of the notwithstanding clause, and that we really need to look at that. And again, as I keep on saying, I'm hoping that there's a case that finally does get to the Supreme Court, where we can really, really challenge this seriously, because every right in the Charter has reasonable limits. So I'm hoping that there is a judge somewhere, or that the Supreme Court, the justices would get together and conclude that, yes, the notwithstanding clause is there for a purpose, and yes, but not to crush your basic right to practice your religion, like that, or to be called, for other people to address you in the way that you wish to be addressed. I mean, there's got to be some reasonable limits, or else our Charter of Rights is merely a suggestion.
Yeah.
In that case, but there are some groups that are coming to support this. Represent today on the Hill around 10 a.m. Representatives from the International Commission of Jurists Canada and the Canadian Bar Association will be teaming up with a panel of legal and constitutional experts to launch a call for action on the growing and excessive use of the notwithstanding clause, which, according to the advisory, will also propose, quote, actions, guidelines, and processes to constrain its use, which, quote, is endangering the rights and freedoms of the most vulnerable Canadians. So it's not just this guy who's noticing this. You know what I just said about Max, somebody who knows stuff, actually having the same view as you? Well, this guy who made this video, the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, the International Commission of Jurists Canada, and the Canadian Bar Association agree with this guy. That there's something going on, and we need to be drawing some attention to it right now. So that will be going on today, and I'm not sure if that's going to be televised on CPAC or whatnot, but I will definitely be looking for that, because that's definitely someplace you want to be paying attention here. Other things that might be going on. Yes, by the way, somebody pointed it out to me, but it seems that Leona Alislev, once a Liberal, then jumped ship to the Conservatives, then put her name to run for the leadership of the Conservatives, then pulled out, apparently wants to challenge my MP here at the Beaver Lodge, Liberal Mark Gerritsen, and she's going to be running for the Conservative nomination here. I am always suspicious of someone who that quickly changes parties and is so into the other party that they want to run for the leadership, and then it doesn't go anywhere because nobody really knows who they are, but they raise their profile so much and then come back again. It's very JD Vance-ish.
Oh yeah.
So my initial reaction when I saw that was, oh hell no. Not her. So but we'll see what happens there. According to Elections Canada, the by-election hub, the polls are set to close at 8:30 p.m. local time in Langley. Wow. Cloverdale, Langley City.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Langley. Cloverdale, Langley.
Portmanteaued it, did you?
Wow. Is that the word for it? Portmanteau?
Yeah. When you take two words and put them together, it's a portmanteau.
Okay, I did not know that. I knew that there was a word for it, because there's a word for everything, but I had no idea what it was. Wow. Cloverdale, Langley City. Yes. So the polls are set to close at 8:30. So please make sure that you do go vote there. Normally I would do that in the democracy, something that you do portion, but I happen to have it right in front of me here. Of course, it seems to be widely predicted that it will be a third consecutive by-election loss for the Liberals. It was a riding previously held by John Aldag, who stepped down earlier this year to run for the provincial New Democrats, but it was a failing bid because they were ultimately defeated by his rookie BC Conservative rival. Aiming to turn the riding blue once again, former Conservative P. Tamara Jansen, who did hold the riding once. So there was one person, John Aldag had it, and then he lost to her, and then she lost to him. Now he's not running again, and she is running again. So the population of the electoral district do know Tamara Jansen and are familiar with her because she has been the representative once. So that's another thing that makes this one a little less interesting to cover, because the incumbent's gone, somebody who's already held the position is there, and the polls also don't look like the incumbent party can win. And polls showing that the party that can win is being represented by somebody who's already done the job. Yes. You can't get a heavier set of circumstances. So yeah, like I don't like to say this one's in the bag, but this one's in the bag.
It looks pretty good. Yeah. I'd say so.
Yeah. It's the bag is very heavily weighted. Let's put it that way. So yeah, that is happening today as well. For those who are interested in financial stuff, Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem will share his thoughts on the economic factors shaping Canada's monetary policy, as well as, quote, look back at the progress made bringing inflation back to target and ahead to new challenges on the horizon at a lunch hosted by the Greater Vancouver Board of Trade that, according to the advisory, will include a back and forth with the audience moderated by University of British Columbia professor Darren Dahl, but no post-address media availability. And that will be taking place at 12:30 Pacific time. And again, that might be available with streaming maybe on the Bank of Canada's website or whatnot if you're interested in that type of stuff. So you should look at that. Okay, before we go, there's a couple of stuff, a couple of things internationally that has still been happening because the world is still rather in a bit of upheaval with everything that's been changing in the world. Mainly Syria at the moment. It seems that the successful rebel factions and remnants of the Assad state are putting a good faith effort to secure a relatively stable and peaceful transfer of power so far. The new interim prime minister says getting refugees who fled the country back home is a top priority. And while there is some fighting in among some factions in northern Syria, particularly between the Turkish aligned groups and the Kurdish groups. Russia is desperately trying to find some way to maintain their port access and military air base there, but there are also some indications that they are moving assets out of the area. That would be a big sign. This could also dramatically impact Russia's strategy in Africa. So people that are looking at the global chessboard saying, how could that, what role could that play there? The last few months have been as devastating to Iran. They have been devastating to Iran's projection abilities as the loss of NATO would be to the West. So that there's a big change for Iran there in terms of it being its ability to be a pole of influence. Iran's public statements have been pretty much limited to encouraging respect for Syria's territorial integrity and expressing willingness to reach out to the new government, which might cause some turmoil within the leadership in Iran, but no news of this has emerged yet. But maybe a new supreme leader. Eventually. You never know. The U.S. has indicated that it would support the Syrian government if four conditions were met: respect for rights of minorities, the facilitation of humanitarian assistance, the prevention of Syria being used as a base for non-state actors hitting other countries or posing a threat to its neighbors, and securing and safely destroying any chemical weapons stockpiles. The U.S. says it maintains its operations against the Islamic State in the region and is willing to help the Kurds. But Israel is not sticking to chemical weapons and facilities or storage sites, it seems. It has also hit targets pertaining to Syria's military capabilities, in particular rendering its navy unusable and hitting certain military sites. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken was traveling to Turkey to talk about regional stability and counterterrorism priorities. He said that there is broad agreement about the future government should look like in Syria. Quote, one that is inclusive and not sectarian, one that protects the rights of minorities and women, one that preserves institutions of the state and delivers services to the people. The U.S. is also focused on its efforts to keep ISIS in check in Syria and is urging rebel leaders to destroy and secure any chemical weapons it happens to find. Blinken then flew to Iraq to meet its prime minister to talk about regional security, and then is headed to Jordan for a gathering of Arab foreign ministers. There have been a couple of land seizures as well here and there by Israel around the Golan Heights area, which of course they had secured in the, I think it was the 7-Day War or the 6-Day War, I can't remember now, back in the 70s, and then annexed fully later on, which is something that has not been recognized by many nations yet, but strategically, Golan Heights, it's high up, so it's a strategic spot, and it seems that preemptively securing that because it's so close to the border there. Since over the course of the weekend, it did seem like the rebel leaders, leader al-Jilani's claim about wanting to respect minority rights is somewhat serious. Schools in Damascus have reopened for the first time since the Assad regime was toppled. A new national flag has been unveiled. And I do have that for you, Mr. Grizzly. I'll send it to you by mail. I've got the before and after. They are somewhat similar, but different enough because, at a time like this, symbols matter. But a new flag has indeed been unveiled in Syria. According to the CBC, opposition leader Abu Muhammad al-Jilani appointed an interim prime minister and asked civil servants to go back to work. He pledged to hold accountable those responsible for tortures and disappearances and reassured minorities that they would be protected. According to NPR, he also said he wants no conflict with Israel and that there are no more excuses for, quote, false pretext interventions by the nation on its soil. Israel says al-Jilani's moderate stance is probably not much more than a facade. Not exactly in those words, but sort of hinted at that. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken acknowledged that U.S. officials have been in direct contact with new leaders in Syria, despite the fact that the group is still labeled a terrorist group officially at the moment. The UN envoy for Syria says that he supports lifting sanctions on the Islamist group now, leading Syria and is now leading. The group that is now leading Syria and is calling for immediate aid for the Syrian people. NPR reports that Christians attended Sunday service and have been given assurances, again, by the new rulers that the rights of minorities will indeed be protected. The British Foreign Minister Secretary David Lammy announced a £50 million aid package to Syria, saying we want to see a Syrian-led and Syrian-owned future. The first £30 million will go to immediate needs such as food, shelter, and emergency health care. They will also cover emerging needs like the rehabilitation of essential services, including water, hospitals, and schools. The remaining money will go towards helping Syrians in neighboring countries, and that money will be distributed mainly through UN channels. So, so far, looking hopeful. I mean, Christians have gone to church for the first time in how long? Without any.
You're not. I don't know if you're aware of this story. I just got sent this. It was just 8 minutes ago. Chrystia Freeland is stepping down.
Wow. You want to read the letter in?
I can't quite see that. It's too small. Let's see if I can.
Okay, is it on her feed?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay, I will bring it up. Feed. There we go. She says, see my letter to the Prime Minister below. Veuillez trouver ma lettre au Premier Ministre ci-dessous. December 16, 2024, the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister. Dear Prime Minister, it has been the honor of my life to serve in government working for Canada and Canadians. We have accomplished a lot together. Sorry, I'm going to move it to the other screen to make it easier for me to read without the camera in my way. There we go. On Friday, you told me you want me to serve as your finance minister and offered me another position in cabinet. Upon reflection, I have concluded that the only honest and viable path is for me to resign from the cabinet. To be effective, a minister must speak on behalf of the prime minister and with his full confidence. In making your decision, you made clear that I no longer credibly enjoy that confidence and possess the authority that comes with. Wait a minute, I missed something. Oh, on Friday you told me you no longer. Sorry, I missed that.
You want me to serve as your finance minister and offer me
Sorry.
another position in the cabinet?
Yes, sorry. Let me try that again because I missed a very key word there. December 16, 2024, the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, PCMP, 80 Wellington Street, Ottawa, Ontario, K1A 082. Dear Prime Minister, it has been the honor of my life to serve in government working for Canada and Canadians. We have accomplished a lot together. On Friday, you told me you no longer want me to serve as your finance minister and offered me another position in the cabinet. Upon reflection, I have concluded that the only honest and viable path for me is to resign from the cabinet. To be effective, a minister must speak on behalf of the prime minister and with his full confidence. In making your decision, you made it clear I no longer credibly enjoy that confidence and possess the authority that comes with it. For the past number of weeks, you and I have found ourselves at odds about the best path forward for Canada. So the reporting was indeed accurate. Our country today faces a grave challenge. The incoming administration in the United States is pursuing a policy of aggressive economic nationalism, including a threat of 25% tariffs. We need to take the threat extremely seriously. This means keeping our fiscal powder keg dry, so we have the reserves we may need for a coming tariff war. This means eschewing costly political gimmicks, which we can ill afford and will make Canadians doubt that we recognize the gravity of the moment. That means pushing back against America First economics nationalism with a determined effort to fight for capital and investments and the jobs they bring. That means working in good faith and humility with the premiers of the provinces and territories of our great and diverse country and building a true Team Canada response. I know Canadians would recognize and respect such an approach. They know when we are working for them, and they equally know when we are focused on ourselves. Inevitably, our time in government will come to an end, but how we deal with the threat our country currently faces will define us for a generation, and perhaps longer. Canada will win if we are strong, smart, and united. It is this conviction which has driven my strenuous efforts this fall to manage our spending in ways that will give us the flexibility we will need to meet the serious challenges presented by the United States. I will always be grateful for the chance to have served in government, and I will always be proud of our government's work for Canada and Canadians. I look forward to continuing work with my colleagues as Liberal Member of Parliament, and I'm committed to running again for my seat in Toronto in the next federal election. With gratitude, the Honourable Chrystia Freeland. Okay, so this sort of confirms my thinking that it wasn't this big disrespect thing, but it really was. I really think we should go this way, and I do believe the Prime Minister, as he indicated in his first budget, is quite all right with deficitary spending. Right, he said we were going to have a small deficit, and he ran on that on first, but then blew past that pretty quickly. Not to numbers that were terrible, because the debt to GDP ratio is still decreasing, and that's really what matters ultimately in the end. But still, he doesn't have the predilection. He's not. He would definitely be to the left of the Minister of Finance, even though both of them are center left or left of center to a certain bit. Maybe not as left of center as people of the NDP would like them to be, but still a little left of center if you think of the center as an absolute. But he's probably way more to the left than she is.
I think so.
So they don't agree on the course. He wants to spend more on programs. She would like us to be a little more cautious with that in case we need something for a rainy day. Okay, Chrystia, I love you. Is there anything else that you would want to do in the cabinet? No, not really. And like, I still love you because I'm still going to run for my seat in the next election, even though the polls are still there. It's just, it's fine, man. It's finance minister, nothing for me. Right. Otherwise, I'd just rather be a good constituency MP. There are some choices of words in here that would maybe lead to believe there might be some slight irritation. Comments like, that means working in good faith and humility with the premiers and provinces of the territories. The Prime Minister might be a little too convinced that he's got the right solution for her judgment or assessment. Maybe. Awesome. But this doesn't so far does not look like a war or rift. However, the one way that you could consider this being a big salvo as a war is she's supposed to deliver the economic statement at 4.
Yeah. So what's happening there? Like, what's going to go on? This is interesting. So it looks to me like the ship is sinking and everybody is bailing. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but that's what it looks like.
That's what it looks like. Or that they did get Mark Carney.
Yeah, who knows?
And they'll be announcing him on Wednesday.
It's like, but we're losing her and losing
Sean Fraser.
It's bad. It's bad for the party. I get why Fraser wants to spend time with his family. Sorry, Lola's very wound up right now.
Yep.
But that's just bad for the country. It's bad for the party. It's bad for everybody. It's just bad.
It's just bad. Wow.
I think the ship is sinking rapidly, and everybody's getting off.
Wow. That's wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's definitely some breaking news. You might have heard it here first, actually. So.
Well, whoever the news sent that to me, so thank you.
Thank you. Yes, very much. Wow, that is something. Okay. Couple things I wanted to mention very quickly. So we talked about Syria. France does have a new prime minister. Emmanuel Macron did name one. Quite surprising that it happened so fast, considering how long it took him to name the first one. But yes, the prime minister's last name, his name is François Bayrou, Bayrou, and yes, he is the new prime minister. In South Korea, the second attempt to impeach the president did take place. There was some, because the first time they wanted to do it, and members of the president's party walked out, and then there wasn't quorum. But they did say that that probably would not happen a second time.
Right.
So President Yoon Suk-yeol is now over. He has been impeached, according to the Associated Press. South Korea's parliament voted Saturday to impeach President Yoon Suk-yeol over his short-lived martial law decree. They passed the motion 204 to 85 in a floor vote. Yoon's presidential powers and duties will be suspended, and Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, the country's number 2 official, will take over his authority once copies of a document of the impeachment are delivered to Yoon and to the Constitutional Court. The court has up to 180 days to determine whether to dismiss Yoon as president or restore his powers. If he's thrown out of office, a national election to choose his successor must be held within 60 days. It was the second National Assembly vote on Yoon's impeachment motion. Last Saturday, Yoon survived an impeachment vote after most ruling party lawmakers boycotted the floor vote. Some People Power Party lawmakers had since announced their intentions to vote for Yoon's impeachment in the second vote, as public protests against Yoon intensified and his approval rating plummeted. So that's what's going on over there. And it seems that in Germany, we might be going to an election rather shortly too, because the chancellor faced a confidence vote in the German parliament. on Monday, so today, time difference, right? That he was expected to lose, paving the way for the European Union's most populous member and biggest economy to hold an early election in February. Scholz's unpopular and notoriously rancorous three-party government collapsed on November 6th when the Chancellor fired his finance minister in a long-running dispute over how to revitalize Germany's stagnant economy, and the minister's pro-business party quit the coalition. Seems to be a common theme. How do we revitalize the economy? I think we should go this way. I think we should go this way. I don't agree. Well, I guess you're fired or I resign. So seems it's not unique to us. Leaders of several major, that left the remaining two center-left partners without a majority in parliament. Leaders of several major parties then agreed that a parliamentary election should be held on February 23rd, 7 months earlier than originally planned. Post-World War II Germany's constitution doesn't allow parliament's lower house or Bundestag to dissolve itself, so a confidence vote is needed to set in motion the early election. Scholz's Social Democrats hold 207 seats in the Bundestag and are expected to vote for the Chancellor. The remaining coalition partners, the environmentalist Greens, have 117 and plan to abstain. That means Scholz gets nowhere near the majority of 367 in the 733-seat chamber needed to win the confidence vote. If Scholz loses, it will be up to President Frank-Walter Steinmeier to decide whether to dissolve the Bundestag. Steinmeier, who said last month that, quote, this country needs stable majorities and a government that is capable of acting, has 21 days to make that decision. Once Parliament has dissolved, the election must be held within 60 days. In practice, the campaign is already well underway. Scholz told lawmakers that the election will determine whether, quote, we as a strong country dare to invest strongly in our future. Do we have confidence in ourselves and our country, or do we put our future on the line? Do we risk our cohesion and our prosperity by delaying long overdue investments? Scholz's pitch to voters includes his pledge to, quote, modernize Germany's strict self-imposed rules on running up debt and to increase the national minimum wage. Center-right challenger Friedrich Merz responded, quote, that you're leaving the country in one of its biggest economic crises in post-war history. You're standing here and saying business as usual. Let's run up debt at the expense of the younger generation. Let's spend money, and the word competitiveness of the German economy didn't come up once in the speech you gave today, Merz said. The Chancellor said Germany is Ukraine's biggest military supplier in Europe, and he wants to keep that up, but underlined his insistence that he won't supply long-range Taurus cruise missiles over concerns of escalating the war with Russia or send German troops into the conflict. Quote, we will do nothing that jeopardizes our own security, he said. Merz, who has been open to sending long-range missiles, said, quote, we don't need any lectures on war and peace from Scholz's party, he said. However, that the political rivals in Berlin are united in, quote, absolute will to do everything so that this war in Ukraine ends as quickly as possible. Polls show Scholz's party trailing well behind Merz's main opposition union bloc. Vice Chancellor Robert Habeck, whose Greens are further back, is also bidding for the top job. The far-right Alternative for Deutschland, which is polling strongly, has nominated Alice Weidel as its candidate for chancellor, but has no chance of taking the job because other parties refuse to work with it. Confidence votes are rare in Germany, a country of 83 million people that prizes stability. This is only the sixth time in its post-war history that a chancellor has called one. The last was in 2005 when then-Chancellor Gerhard Schröder engineered an early election that was narrowly won by center-right challenger Angela Merkel. So big changes in France, big changes. I mean, and those are the two poles in the EU.
Yes. Yeah.
So the EU's in upheaval. The United States is switching from democracy to whatever the F we're going to get under Orangina.
I would say Kakistocracy.
Yeah. Over here, cabinet ministers are leaving and the government can't seem to pass a bill to actually give people money.
Yeah.
So courage, everyone. Courage. And the finance minister resigns hours before having to deliver the fall economic statement.
None of this is good.
None of this is good.
I mean, somebody's like, so I know somebody somewhere will watch this and go, oh, you poor liberal cucks. I'm not crying.
C'est la vie.
What can I do about it? Not a damn thing. Am I upset? No. I think this is not good, but
it's
I'm not
a third-term government.
Yeah. This was inevitable.
That hardly had any chance to really institute his agenda the way that he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Because 1 year into it came Trump. And then while Trump was there, then came COVID. And then we got a little bit of a breather from COVID. And we got damn Trump again. And in the meantime, that little breather came with supply chain disruptions, war with Gaza, war with Ukraine, war.
yeah.
Like, let's. When we look back on this in history, there's probably not going to have been a government in Canadian history that was dealt a worse hand. The
I would
first
agree
year
with
was
that.
good,
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
and then crap started happening. So you have a government, 3 terms, that has, out of 9 years it's been government, 8 years of crap thrown its way.
Hmm.
Utter total crap. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all tired. Like this, I'm not particularly tired of this government, but I'm tired of, like, can the universe please give it some runway so it could institute its policies in an environment where, like, the sky isn't falling constantly? Thank you very much. So, but that's not what we got.
No.
And we don't get to choose our circumstances. We only get to choose how we react to them and how we adapt to them. So, yes, quite likely, very naturally, after 3 successful terms, the government is probably going to get the boot, particularly in, a situation.
Did somebody win 4 terms once? I think one prime minister did once.
There have been 2, I think, that have
2?
gotten 4 terms. I think was it Saint Laurent and Laurier?
Yeah, Laurier was one. It might have been
Maybe
Saint
not
Laurent.
Saint Laurent, but there are 2. Yeah, I'd probably have to look that up trivia wise. But yeah, so listen, it's a mess everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mess everywhere. And yeah, are things going the way that we would like? No. Are we looking at a future where things are going to be happening and people are going to be leading us, of whom we're less fond than the current ones? Yes. Will we live? Hopefully. They'll allow us. Will we swell up and fall apart? No. It's governments are supposed to change
Yeah, it's inevitable.
now and then, and you get good ones and you get bad ones.
We're about to go through a bad cycle of fiscal mismanagement, as the Conservatives often, always, every single time do.
We've been here before. This is a party that claims it's financial geniuses, and they have not left the country with a structural surplus in over 120 years.
Yeah. So please tell us again how you're.
So, I mean, let's right. We're not expecting. No. We're not expecting genius here. But hey, we've been through transitions before. We've had government switches before. We've been through bad governments before. We've been through good, and we're still here.
Yeah, we'll still be
we're
around.
Still here. Like this,
the country will be in lesser shape.
Yeah, what circumstances we'll be in like this, but we'll still be here, and hopefully this time around, one go around of whatever this changes will be enough. And if it is as disastrous as we expect it to be, willing to be pleasantly surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Open-minded, hoping to be pleasantly surprised. But if not, hopefully 4 years will be enough, and we can get back to regularly scheduled programming before they vandalize too much. But hey, whatever the situation is, we deal with it. That's what we do. We're Canadians. It's part of the keep calm and carry on thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's what we do. Right?
And that's just it. You get out and we can change our provincial government, which will be next. If it's traditional that, if the federals change to Conservatives, the provincial should change to Liberal. That's usually the suit that is followed for a century. Will that happen here in Ontario? In all likelihood. So many people being harmed by the blatant, in-your-face corruption of the Ford government, and it's not even a joke anymore. Like, they're not even trying to hide it. So we'll see what happens. I still say don't. I expect the Conservatives to win. Who's in charge of that party at the time? I don't know. I don't think it'll be Pierre Poilievre, because once the information comes out about the foreign interference, he might be removed from his position.
That's another thing that could come up that could change the game, flip the game as well.
Right.
Like I said, the Prime Minister keeps on behaving like he knows something. Because otherwise it's just plain hubris.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not just him though. We've seen Jagmeet Singh behave in a manner similar to let us sort of give us the indication that, hey, you know what? I know a thing or two about a thing or two, right?
Right, and Elizabeth May too recently. So
yeah, so
maybe there is, like I said, maybe there still is something. Maybe there is some like big card that will make everybody go, you know, like. But I'm not counting on it. I'm certainly not building my hopes on it. Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
We do indeed, sir. We went a
Wow,
little
we went into overtime
today.
There was a lot. There was a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, these are tectonic things that are sort of, like I said, this was all quietly rumbling underneath, but clearly there was a lot going on.
Oh, yes.
I mean, that announcement from Freeland.
Didn't see that coming.
Definitely, did not see that coming. I thought, you know, she would make the announcement and then we'd find out if there was a shuffle. She would either stay or get moved to something that was equally prestigious, you know, and valuable, because, like, you know, point person in charge of Canada-U.S. relations would be a really big deal at this particular time, and you're guaranteed to be in front of a camera every damn day.
Yeah.
Right. So
she did pretty good with the last one around. We had $100 billion surplus.
Yep. Yeah. Trump is mad because the trade surplus, because we're good at trade.
Yeah. He's mad because we're good at our job.
The trade surplus did go down a little bit after the negotiation of the deal, but then it went up by gangbusters because our trade surplus was always in the tens of billions, but now we're in the hundreds of, well, not the hundreds, but we've crossed triple digits.
Yes.
So we seem to have done very well under NAFTA too.
I think so.
Someone's not happy about that. Oh well. He wants to talk some more. We can talk some more. We'll negotiate more. All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. And you have the mouth from which we want the word to come. Oh my God, the chat today, kids, you guys are amazing. I'm sorry I wasn't able to read that much into it, but wow, you're throwing a lot in there today. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. Now, if you would like to subscribe to our show, the podcast version, making sure that you don't miss an episode at all, you can do that thanks to our pod page, which is sponsored by the Ray Girl. If you scan that QR code that just appeared, or if you go to podpage.com/TheTrueNorthEagerBeaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words, click subscribe. When we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. If you would like to support us in other ways, then you need to make like Kit Lane and get yourself on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page. And there we have 3 buttons: like, share, and subscribe. If you click on those, we instantly get a little jolt of happiness. So make us happy. Click our buttons. Thanks so much. Now, if you would like to support us in other ways, kits and cubs, because, you know, we do incur some costs in bringing this fine show you've come to love and appreciate over the amount of time that you've been a member of the Beaver Lodge here. And we always ask our kits and cubs if they can lend us a little hand up to help us with those. And if you would like to do that, if you are so inclined and you have the means, if you scan the QR code that is by Mr. Grizzly's head, that will bring you to our tip jar. Now, our tip jar is at our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. And, you know, if you feel that I've been a very good beaver this year, and if you feel that Mr. Grizzly's been a very good bear this year, who knows? I believe in Santa Kits. Just saying. Anything that you can contribute is greatly appreciated. Now, if you are not able to contribute anything financially, as always, don't worry, not even now, because the gifts of your attention and participation will always be the ones that matter most to us, no matter what time of year. All right. So keep on showing up and bring in the cheer. And that's what we need. We love to hear from you. Write to us, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. Remember, audience participation time. If you have any views on who are your MVPs in politics, internationally, nationally, provincially, or at the municipal level, or who are your womp womp womps, also at the same level, send us your thoughts. Also, what were your big stories or most overlooked stories or most underrated stories of the year? Also at those levels, let us know what you think. Send it to us at truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. Write year-end review in the subject line to make it easier for us to find. And when we do our year-end shows, we will read in your comments. But we do want your views, so please let us know what it is you think. All right. You can also reach us on our Twitter feed at True Eager, our Blue Sky feed also at True Eager, our Facebook page, True North Eager Beaver. And if you are listening on our YouTube channel, right down below, you can leave us something in the comment section. Thank you very much for your thoughts. They do make the show better. Because democracy is something that you do, today is the day. If you live in Cloverdale, Langley City, federal by-election, please get out there and vote. Even if you are pretty much convinced that the party that you prefer will not win, please still go out and vote. Do send the message. All right? Because how much the winning party wins by, if it's over 50%, that's one thing. So if you can put out enough votes to let them know that they should not necessarily consider this a mandate which they can just do whatever they want with, that might be something you want to do as well. Thank you to whomever scanned the QR code just there. Thank you so much. Also, 2 days from now, in Alberta, provincially, Lethbridge West, you will have a by-election there. So please do what you need to do there as well. Because, again, it is a giving season. If there is any funds going on in your area, like a snowsuit fund or whatnot, or a fund to buy socks or something like that for people who are unhoused, but to help people keep warm or be well bundled, sleeping bags, tents, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
find a way. And if you have the means, do contribute to supporting that, and take some time to write some letters to your provincial members of parliament and territorial. Tell them that you want them to get started now with the
Yes.
warming centers and all that, because we do not want to see people, given that they have not provided the houses, we do not want to hear multiple stories this year of people dying on the street of cold.
Well, I remember our friend Brianne, who was on not too long ago, talked to us about meeting people with a gentleman, a wheelchair user gentleman, a homeless person who his hands were frozen to the
Wheels.
guards on his wheelchair because he had no mitts in minus 30.
Yeah.
Like, that's just heart-wrenching, heartbreaking, and disgusting that happens.
Yep.
Shouldn't happen. Not in a country as rich as Canada. Shouldn't
Yep.
happen. Shouldn't happen anywhere. Absolutely shouldn't happen here.
Yep. So if there are any funds for that type of thing, organizations, please take a moment, and if you are able to contribute anything, support that. And if you're not able to support financially, still use your social media to spread the word about the organization, because if you can't, somebody you know can. We are all a center of a circle of influence of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so use your power. All right. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom, please?
Yeah, in this giving season, give to yourself too. Make sure you don't exhaust yourself. Take care of yourself when you need to make time to do so, because you'll find yourself sick and in the hospital, and you don't want that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is very, very good advice.
I'd like to think
It's
so.
okay to say no to certain invitations now and then too,
Mhm.
if you're overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Self-care, number one. All right, Mr. Grizzly, please cue the cock. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster. Hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right. Before we go, just a little bit of Canadians who make us proud, because Summer McIntosh went 3 for 3.
Yeah.
3 for 3. Third event, third gold medal, individual event, third world record in the event. She was named the athlete of the championships.
And remember, folks, she's 18. She's only just getting started.
I know. It's incredible. Since we last chatted with each other, more medals for Canada. Kylie Mass won a bronze in the women's 50-meter backstroke final for her 20th medal, world championship medal, long and short course combined, and maybe Olympic medals as well, but at that level, making her the most decorated in Canadian history. Quietly, Kylie Mass got it done.
Cool.
Right? She's not the person who got the most press throughout the last years, but she was
still working hard.
She was the consistency person throughout it all. And the mix 4x50 freestyle relay final, Team Canada took the silver medal there. The women's 400 IM final, Summer McIntosh won that in a world record, nearly 5 seconds ahead of second place. People have basically been comparing it, like, and in one way it's kind of a weird way to compare it, because they're comparing her to a horse, but the margin of victory of Secretariat in 1973. This is that if Secretariat could swim, this would be the equivalent gap. So she got that done that day. Women's 200-meter freestyle, Mary Sophie Harvey, one of the next gen, gets, I believe, her first individual world medal with a silver there. Summer McIntosh picked up another silver in the women's backstroke final. She doesn't backstroke.
Yeah, it's new for her.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I'll try a backstroke. Silver.
Yeah.
Fine. Just, she's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane. So, yeah, a great championship for Team Canada, finishing with a total of 15 medals.
Wow.
United States took 39, Canada 15, Australia 12 in there. 4 gold, 5 silver, 6 bronze. You can't ask for better.
No, that's pretty amazing. So before we go, one quick joyful story for you. Joyful, I guess, or just a reflection upon reality. Quebec City, the toboggan slide is going to be refrigerated to counter the effects of climate change.
Yay!
Because last year it was only open for 32 days, and their goal is to have it open for 95. So this is a picture from, 1915. So the slide's been there since 1884. Which is 10 years before Chateau Frontenac was built. And it has run every year, with the exception, there was a gap between 81 and 91 where it didn't. But yeah, it's basically been there since 1884, and they're going to refrigerate it to keep it operational. It's costing about $400,000 to refrigerate the slide, and it says they're getting help from Tourism Quebec for the winter infrastructure. And I think it's important that they do that, because that literally they have people who call and say, is the slide going to be open? Because my plan is to go there for that purpose.
Yeah, that'll pay for itself.
Whatever, but yeah. So
that'll pay for itself in tourism revenue.
Oh yeah, easily.
Eventually. Yep.
Easily. Yeah.
All right. Everyone. Extra long bonus show for you today. Have a beaverific day.
It won't be that long tomorrow.
No.
I'll see you.